have to apologize. I'm a bit tired. One, I'm jet lagged. I came from New Zealand. And two, I got up at 4 this morning for a potential talk with the local NBC. I needn't have bothered. That's okay, that's fine. So I am a bit tired. We heard before lunch the group of the original Amiga developers talk about the launch at CES in 1994 in January. And I'm going to talk about what happened after Commodore went bankrupt. And I'm going to talk about what happened to the Amiga and where we are now in 2025 with Amigas, right? So how many people actually are Amiga users now? Can you put your hands up, please? Good. How many people are using original Amigas now? Okay. How many people are using emulated Amigas? Same people. How many people are using FPGA Amigas? Oh, less, okay. How many people are using software emulation? Same people again, some of you, right? Great. Well, look, how many people have never used an Amiga? Oh, so we got some converts to make. Oh, great, that's great. Okay, I love it. Look, I am a crazy guy, right? In my real life, I'm a business angel, but that's just over there. Really, I'm a totally committed Commodore and Amiga guy. My first computer was a Commodore PET 4032. My second computer was a Commodore 64. When I saw international soccer playing on a Commodore 64 in Aberdeen, Scotland, I traded in the PET and got a Commodore 64. My next computer was a 128, and then a 128D when I lived in Texas. That's my accent, by the way. This is a Texan accent, right? Yoal, right? That got destroyed in a lightning strike, in thunderstorm in Texas. And fortunately, I had home insurance, and with the home insurance money, and on the insurance policy, it said act of God. So an act of God gave me money, and I bought my first Amiga. And it was an Amiga 2000. And it was ugly. It was a really ugly beast. But what a beautiful machine. So expandable. Okay, so apart from being an Amigan and a business angel, I'm actually the founder and funder of A-EON Technology. And I'm a shareholder in Amiga-Kit. So if you come out to the Amiga area, you'll see both PowerPC Amigas and emulated ARM-type Amigas. And they're for sale, so come out and buy them. Not for me, but for my business partner. He needs the money. Right. I am a crazy, crazy collector. And I have probably about 200 machines of all types and sizes. Surprise, surprise, they're all Commodores and Amigas, past, present, and future. And I'm really pleased that we've got a lot of the development team here today. So thank you for coming and listening to my presentation. I hope I do it justice. The last time I stood on this stage was in 2015 at Amiga 30. And in that event, we took over that whole hall we're in now. And it was a fantastic event. And that evening, we had a banquet dinner in the museum. And we had High Toro, Amiga, Commodore people, Commodore suppliers, developers, you name it. It was really good. And we screened the first viewing of Viva Amiga, the movie. It was a pre-release. It was only an hour long. But I sat at the table with 10 people that had all been at High Toro. Don, who spoke at lunchtime, a lot of the technicians, secretaries, and when the movie played, there was not a dry eye at the table. And it really was a magnificent event. And I thought, we can't top that. We can't top that, there's no way. So I'm really pleased that the organizing committee, which I'm one of, decided to tie in with VCF, because we made a totally different show this year. And if you haven't been to see the Amiga area, it's a recreation of that booth at CES in 1984. And if people don't know what it's about, you couldn't go in the booth unless you signed an NDA and there was a curtain. And you only went behind the curtain if you signed the NDA, and behind the NDA, the curtain, you saw the Amiga wire-wrapped boards. Now, if you want any more information about that, there's all the developers here, they can tell you about it. I'm a crazy Amigan, and I co-authored, actually I wrote it all and researched it all. I didn't do any of the admin, but I wrote a series of books called Vultures to Vampires. I don't particularly like the name, but it's what it is. I didn't choose the name, but it's a story of what happened to the Commodore and Amiga technology after Commodore went bust. All the companies that tried to revive it, all the companies that people that put money and effort into it, the failures, the successes, and what the Amiga community and market has turned into post-Commodore. And this is what I'm really going to talk about today. I thought I was knowledgeable, all the machines I've got, but when I was researching, I found out so much more information about the post-Commodore years, and a lot of people shared their stories with me, so that was really good. Right, is the Amiga dead? Well, if you've ever watched the movie Monty Python and the Holy Grail, there's a scene in there where there's a guy on a cart. He says, "I'm not dead." Yeah, you're not fooling anybody. Right? "I'm not dead." And they knock him out, right? The Amigas is not like that. Well, maybe it is, but we're not dead yet. For most Amigans, or a lot of classic Amigans, the only Amiga they qualify as Amiga is an Amiga built and made by Commodore running Amiga OS. And there's the whole Amiga OS family there. However, most of them have changed their machines, and they're like Frankenstein monsters. There's an old British TV sitcom where the guy said, "I've had this brush for 20 years. I've only changed the head 7 times and the shaft 15 times. The only thing that's left in many classic Amigas is the motherboard. Even my 2000, my trusty 2000, suffered death by Varta battery. So, the machines are very heavily upgraded. Very few have hard drives anymore. They've got every other little fixture. If you haven't been to an Amiga show, go to one, because you'll see so many wonderful and marvelous things. We see walking around today, see all the things and all the other groups are doing. It's just as bad. It's worse in the Amiga, I think. Worse being better. Classic Amiga, and I mean 68K Amiga, Commodore. Love it or loathe it, software emulation has kept it alive. And the first emulator that tried to emulate the Amiga was UAE, and it was called the Unusable Amiga Emulator. Then it was called maybe the Useful Amiga Emulator, because it got better and better. And UAE proved that you could actually emulate the Amiga custom chipsets in software. It has evolved tremendously over the years. The most popular version probably is WinUAE, which obviously is UAE for Windows. And there are many other variations of emulators which have been developed since. WinUAE became popular because of Bernie Meyer's just-in-time coding, so they could, on the fly, convert the 68K code to speed it up, making modern PCs much faster under emulation than any classic Amiga ever could be. Today, WinUAE is I won't even say it's bothered. Tony Willen does the maintenance of that. The latest version, just released last month, or this month, is WinUAE 6.0.0. There's so many other emulators. FSUAE, UAE for PSP. Amiga Forever is an excellent emulator package which basically utilizes WinUAE. It's more of a historical package. It includes a lot more things, videos and things about the Amiga launch, a lot more information. And that actually provided legal ROM images. So when the UE was first released, there was worry that it would lead to piracy, but Cloanto, doing a deal with Gateway, who owned the Amiga at the time, meant that anyone could get the ROM images from Amiga Forever and everything would be legal. So that helped emulation. As things improved, workbench distributions were developed, and these were like fully compiled workbench distributions to give users a better feel and use for their Amigas. Amiga in a Box was the first one. Amiga-curious, released in 2004, was another one. That's still being worked on today. AmiKit, by a young guy in Serbia. He's now in Croatia, I think. That's continued to be developed till today. The latest version, free version, was released in 2017. The latest paid version is released in April 2025, and that's 12.8.3 version. So it continues to be updated. Back in 1993, there was a concern that with Commodore's worsening financial condition, that the Amiga operating system would fall into disrepair, disuse. So a team got together and decided to try and create a new operating system, an Amiga replacement operating system. Nothing really happened with it. It was all volunteers until 1995, when a guy called A-EON Technology sparked discussions that eventually led to the create an OS compatible with Amiga OS 3.1. And that marked the birth of AROS. There are many AROS distributions. AROS Max was an attempt to put a package together which you could then load automatically on your PC and give you a full AROS setup. Another one is, which is probably the most popular one, is Icarus Desktop. It was originally called VMW AROS, which was a stupid name, really. And it was renamed Icarus Desktop, and that's been updated over the years. The last update was 2020, version 2.3. But there are other versions as well. This led to the development of actually commercial AROS systems. I say commercial, but I don't think many have been sold. One thing about AROS is it allows you to do it yourself. So if you've got your own hardware, a PC, you can install an AROS system. The name was changed to the AROS, I'm going to get the right name here, due to licensing issues. It was changed to, I want to get it right, not the Amiga replacement operating system, but the Amiga research operating system, something like that. Now, we all know about Raspberry Pis and the development of really fairly inexpensive hardware, whether it's Raspberry Pis or Orange Pis or any equivalent. That's led to, Amigans are very clever people, and they started using the Raspberry Pi for emulation and ARM-based systems. There's been many ARM-based emulators. I'll go back there because Pi Amiga, Ambien, AmiBerry, UAE for ARM, these are systems that actually emulate the Amiga on ARM hardware. Which has led to the emulation of 68K Amiga systems. The first was one called Amiga, which I'm sure that was a Spanish company, and it's no longer made. We have the A500 Mini, which is an ARM-based system that comes with 25 games and is a nice little, thank you, a nice little, looks like an Amiga 500 case. Obviously, it's just a case. It's tiny, and there's no keys, but it's there. You'll see the A600 GS over on the Amiga area. It is an ARM-based system. Again, it runs AmiBench, which is an Amiga-like operating system based on AmiBerry and some AROS components. You can load your own ROM images. So if you've got legal ROM images from Cloanto or elsewhere, your own Amigas, then you can install those as well for ultimate compatibility. It has Wi-Fi, Bluetooth, USB, so it gives you, and it has Amiga joystick ports. The ultimate, from my point of view, is the new Amiga 1200 Next Gen NG, which is a replacement for the Amiga 1200 board. So you have all your Amiga ports, but you also have all the modern stuff, Wi-Fi, Bluetooth, USB, HDMI, and that can just replace the motherboard in your Amiga 1200. The problem is, Amiga 1200, what's that? Going to be at least 1992, possibly. So that's 33 years old. A lot of them are damaged beyond repair. So you can actually keep your Amiga keyboard, your case, your power supply, or it comes with a power supply, and you've got a modern Amiga Classic, which is faster than any other Amiga that's the classic Amiga out there. One thing that towards the end, after Commodore went under, there was the development of next generation PowerPC Amigas. I'm particularly fond of them because I have a company that makes them, so that's obviously a reason. But the first ones were released in the early 2000s. One was called the Pegasus PowerPC, and the other one was called the Amiga 1 SE. The official one was a three-way agreement between Amiga Inc., the Amiga Inc. at the time, Hyperion, and Hyperion Entertainment, and a company called iTech in the UK. So it was a three-way agreement. iTech did the hardware, Hyperion did the software, and Amiga Inc. did the licensing. It was based on a reference board from Taiwan. The hardware wasn't very good, and they had a lot of problems. Pegasus also had the same problems, but they fixed it with some hardware chips. Both companies, Pegasus was B-Plan, become Genesi. They produced a number of machines over the next 5 years, as did iTech as part of the three-way agreement. So you had an Amiga 1 XE, various models, a micro Amiga 1, and Pegasus 2, and the Effica. The Pegasus didn't run Amiga OS 4, which was developed under the agreement with Hyperion and Amiga Inc. They had another operating system called MorphOS, and MorphOS was very similar to Amiga OS in the concept and use. Two operating systems. So for modern PowerPC Amigas, you have Amiga OS 4 and you have MorphOS. The latest version of MorphOS is 3.19, I think, and the latest version of OS 4 is 4.1, update 2 with update 3 on the way. There's a second generation of PowerPC motherboards, and that's where I come in. The first was created by a company called A-Cube in Italy, and they brought in the SAM 440, and then the SAM 460, and then the SAM 440 EP before the SAM 460. The SAM 460 is sometimes called an Amiga 1 500 because it was a license was given for OS 4 to call it that name. A-EON, the company I'm involved with, produced the Amiga 1X 1000. That was based on the PA semi chips, the very rare ones. It almost got scuppered because Apple bought the PA semi and weren't going to sell any more CPUs to anybody. Our hardware manufacturer in the UK wrote to Steve Jobs directly and said, look, we've got this contract with making a new Amiga hardware, Amiga 1 hardware. Can we please have these chips that we've ordered? And he got a reply from Steve Jobs. It was a one-word reply, sorry. But he didn't give up. He sent a really long, pleading email to Steve Jobs, and he's saying, look, our business model, you know, they really need this for our company. It would be really good if you could let them buy the chips from you. They only cost $500 each. They were going to scrap them all. We had an order for $1,700, and they changed the payment terms from 30-day credit to payment up front, and they want payment up front for 1,700 CPUs at $500. So obviously it's not commercial. We couldn't do that. It was a small company, and it was really enthusiasts doing it. He got a reply from Steve Jobs. Well, if your business model depends on this contract, your business model is broken. Fortunately, the PA Semi guys took pity on us, and they said, look, there's a stockpiler in Florida who's stockpiling these CPUs. So if you contact them, I'm sure they'll sell you some. So we thought, well, we've done the beta test program. We had 100 units out there with all the beta testers. We wanted to send a commercial system out. So the commercial system was going to be, you know, with these new CPUs. And the only price they give us was $950 a CPU. So it made our Amiga 1 X1000s really expensive to start with. A year later, we sold them all. A year later, we bought some more, this time at a knockdown price of $560. We sold all those, and a year later after that, the stockpiler came back to us, wanted to buy CPUs from us. So we should have kept some. I'd have made money then. Yeah, it was harrowing times, to be honest. We went on, because we couldn't get any more CPUs, we developed another board called, based on P5020 CPUs, dual core and quad core. So we created the Amiga 1 X5020, Amiga 1 X5040, which quad core, 2.2 gigahertz free scale CPU. It's not free scale now, but you know what I mean. And the most recent one is the Amiga 1 A1222 Plus, which should have been out before COVID. During COVID, we had a real problem in that there was one component that was $6. During COVID, it was in short supply, and they offered it to us for $450 for one. So that kind of messed things up a lot, and it slowed us down. Eventually, prices came back down, but manufacturing costs post-COVID are 2.5 times what they were before COVID. So that becomes quite an expensive product. And it was supposed to be entry-level, low cost. Clones. Amigans are great at creating a way of reproducing their machines. Back in 2005, a Dutch engineer called Dennis van Veeren decided that he could actually emulate all of the Amiga custom chipset in FPGAs. And he went to a couple of local computer shows, Commodore computer shows in the Netherlands, and he posted, look, I've produced this, I can emulate the Amiga custom chipset. Well, the forums went wild. You can't do that, it's impossible. So anyway, he did, and then eventually he created version 1 of the Mini-Mig. And the Mini-Mig, and then he open sourced it to the community. And the first Mini-Migs, Mini-Mig version 1.1, were produced by the same A-Cube that were working on the PowerPC. They did a great job. But Mini-Migs themselves have evolved over the period. And there's Dennis on the left, and that's Jens Schoenfeld, another important Amiga developer. He does a lot of accelerators. He does C64 Reloaded. He does FPGA cards. He did the Commodore 1. He did lots of things. He's a very important hardware developer in the Amiga community. And that was them at a show in Italy, where he didn't win the first prize in the show. I think he came second or third. Maybe Michael can remember that one. Other people were inspired. Actually, Dennis was inspired by Jerry Ellsworth, because Jerry Ellsworth worked to create the CDT, what is it? It's the C64 DTV, is that what it's called? It's the C64 on a joystick with games, and she was contracted to produce that. So he wanted to create an Amiga and a joystick. He didn't quite get there, but he ended up with his Mini-Mig. Other developers have gone on. A Swedish guy called Peter Zedlina refined the design and added a lot more features. Then he created the Mini-Mig. That's what he called it, the Mini-Mig. So the evolution has continued, even to the day where we've got Canadian developer. Lots of people can create these because it's open source, but only a few really create the systems to sell. So the Amiga developer, Ranko Rodic, he made 1.1s, he made a whole range of them, different sizes, and his latest ones are really quite powerful, but they're still based on classic Amiga type speeds, maybe a little bit faster. The Mini-Mig, Daniel, inspired other developers. Till Harbaum, and actually, any Atari enthusiasts here? Yeah, he was an Atari enthusiast, and he wanted to create an Atari ST FPGA. But he actually found it easier to do an Amiga one first. So the MIST became an FPGA that could run Amiga software. Eventually did get an Atari one as well. But these FPGAs started not to be able to run Amiga software or Atari. They started to run any core, any software core you could use, any retro PC, any console. I mean, anything you could create would run on FPGA. Of course, someone does it better. Well, I won't say better, differently. Alexei Melevnikov, he built the legacy Mini-Mig and MIST to create the MISTer, which is an open source project using the DE10 Nano motherboard. Again, powered by an Intel Cyclone 5 FPGA and ARM processor. And he wanted to replicate the Amiga and other retro systems accurately. And that's what he did. His boards go HDMI, analog audio, Ethernet, USB support, making it versatile for any enthusiast, any retro enthusiasts. So you'll see Amigans with MISTers, mainly running Amiga, but they can run almost whatever core they load at the time of powering up is what the machine is. It's really, really clever. And FPGAs aren't fast, but compared to retro computers, they're very fast. The latest one that I've seen is the MIST 1200 FPGA. So it's an Amiga 1200 in FPGA with some of the traditional ports and modern ports. This is an interesting one because way back in 2010, and it's an evolution really, a guy he actually, back in 2005 and 6, he was working with FPGAs, and he thought he could create FPGAs for all the custom chipsets on the Amiga, and he started to develop a board. So he worked for IBM PowerPC division in Germany, and all of his friends that worked there were all Amigans. So at lunchtime, they'd talk Amiga, and then they go in and develop PowerPC chips for IBM. So they thought, well, let's create a native Amiga that's modern, and we'll use FPGA. And they did create a number of prototypes, but they never really finished it. But the FPGA work really advanced the development of a 68, 60, then 080. So they created an FPGA which was a really fast Amiga CPU. Tie that with another guy who decided to create an accelerator for the Amiga. Why it was an A600, I don't know, an Amiga 600. Not that popular in the Amiga world. I think that's unfairly unpopular, but he was in Eastern Europe, so maybe they were in better supply in Eastern Europe and a little bit less expensive. He decided to create an accelerator in FPGA for the Amiga 600, and he called it the Vampire. He tied up with the software developers from Apollo with their FPGA 68060, 68080, whatever they wanted to call it, to actually create version 2s of his Vampire board. So accelerators, so there's one for the 500, one for the Amiga 600, and one for the Amiga 1200. And these were using the Apollo's FPGA core. Unfortunately, they fell out. These things happen. So he went back to producing his Vampire V2s himself, whereas the Apollo people created a standalone Vampire. If you go to the Amiga Future display, you'll see a Vampire on the wall, along with a A1222 and another device which I haven't mentioned yet, and the A1200 NG and the A600 GS and something else. The Vampire accelerators have been created as add-ons for Amiga systems for all of the range really now. The first two were the Firebird and the Ice Drake, but now you've got version 4s, versions for the Manticore, Salamander, and Phoenix for those machines that you can see up there. The event of crowdfunding, Amigans have really adopted crowdfunding because you can raise money and you can take the risk of creating the hardware or software that you want, or the books, or the movies, or whatever. And I've been impressed how inventive Amigans have been to raise money to get things produced. With the availability of funding, for people that generally wouldn't have the funding, it meant they could create lots of little special projects. So what people have done, they've taken old Amiga motherboards, taken all the electronics off, sanded them down to the base layers, to the traces, then recreated the boards and created new Amiga motherboards. Because Amiga motherboards, they fail. The capacitors leak. The batteries leak. So we have lots and lots, they're called re-Amigas, of independent developers creating motherboards for other people to build. So you can get the motherboard, you can build it yourself, and some will even build it for you and supply the parts. So you're still using the standard Amiga components, but you're getting a new Amiga motherboard. Classic, yeah? And there's Amiga 1000s, it's called the Amiga 1100. There's accelerators, all created by smart engineers who use small volume manufacturing, and they're mostly using either pre-ordering or Kickstarters. One thing I found quite interesting is in Sweden there's a mysterious Mr. A. He does have a name, I'm not allowed to say it. He's very publicity shy, and he produces mini ITX versions of classic Amiga designs using the original Amiga chips, but packing them into much smaller boards, multi-layered. So you had the Amy ITX, which was the first one, Denise and Lisa, and not only does he do the repackaging of the boards, he creates the Ethernet cards, the accelerator cards. He adds Zorro slots. If you're an Amigan, you know what a Zorro slot is. And the latest one is the Alicia 1200, a classic mini ITX Amiga 1200 variant using all the standard custom chips. And one thing that's really got classic Amigans excited in recent years is the PyStorm. PyStorm is really a carrier that allows you to take out the 68,000 CPU or whatever CPU you've got, put in the PyStorm carrier, and then put a Raspberry Pi on top. You get all the features of the Raspberry Pi with your classic Amiga. Whether that's an Amiga or not, classic Amigas think it's an Amiga, so yes, it's an Amiga. So really, it comes back to what is an Amiga in 2025? Today we have emulation in software. Brilliant. We have PowerPC machines. Brilliant. We have ARM-based machines. We have FPGAs. So what's an Amiga? Well, I still think Amiga is these people. It's the developers, it's the users, it's the companies that are still putting stupid amounts of money into, into a product which offers very little financial return. But it gives people a lot of pleasure. So my question to you is, what's an Amiga in 2025? For me, it's the community, it's the people. It's the people who still are using and still believe. And also, is it dead? Not yet. Not yet dead. So I went through that quite quickly because I wanted time for questions, and I wasn't sure what sort of audience I'd get. And I say I'm very pleased that we've got original Amiga developers here. That's a real bonus for me. So I'm going to throw it open to questions now. Please.
All right. I'll come to you.
This is a really great overview. Thank you for this. So I guess just thinking back, right, the Amiga was so incredible because of and we saw the panel earlier, the custom hardware and the software that tied in, even doing things with Blitter. Are there any kind of innovations kind of in that direction that make use of the ideas? Because I mean, I've got a MacBook Pro in my bag and I can run an emulator, but there was something really special about the Amiga having those special edges around the technology. Is anybody doing anything around that, kind of creating something new and different?
It's a good question because I was many years ago, I was at a dinner with Michael Batalana and software engineers and hardware engineers, and we were all discussing, what made the Amiga so special? And the hardware guy says it's the hardware. The software guy says it's Amiga OS, the preemptive multitasking operating system, Carl Sassenrath. And it was a robust discussion, and I think it was the combination of both. But the Amiga OS is still a very small footprint operating system, and it is really, on modest hardware, it is really, really slick and fast and feels fast still. So for me, I think the operating system is really important. And for me, the feel of the operating system is important. So when I use some of the other systems, whether it's a mental thing with me, and it could be just me, it doesn't feel like I'm using the Amiga, right? When I used OS4 for the first time, an iTech system, it felt like an Amiga. It had that feel and smoothness of it, and it was fast, very fast, compared to the 68060 PowerPC tower I'd built myself. This felt fast. So what are we doing that's different? Well, I think the first thing is, I think there's two things. We're giving people who have the interest in the Amiga and want to get back, we're giving them something to do, they can get it. So the A600GS, it's not expensive, it gives you all that feel, and we're adding more features to it, Amiga Kit R. I like PowerPC myself. Of course, Steve Jobs killed PowerPC from a desktop perspective when he decided in 2006 that Apple would no longer be PowerPC. Just as the post-Amiga company, the post-Commodore companies were working on PowerPC. But it's expensive, and that's the trouble. So in Europe, the Amiga was popular because it was powerful and cheap. In the States, generally, the Amiga was expensive and was used for video toasters and professionals, right? In Europe, it gave birth to a whole bunch of game developers, especially in the UK, and bedroom coders. So I think that anything that allows people to get into computing and code and get proficient is good. And it also set up a whole bunch of people in their careers. And one thing I think RJ and Dave Haney always say they're always surprised by the people that come up to them at shows and say, you started my career. Because I had an Amiga, I did this, I did that. There you are, see, same thing. I don't think I answered your question, but I can answer it later.
Trevor, hot topic, Commodore is back. So we're told even earlier today, I saw a post from Commodore Corporation saying, signed, sealed, delivered. How do you see Amiga fitting in with that?
Well, you'll have to ask the people who own the IP. Commodore, I mean, I'm pleased that the Commodore's doing something. I don't know what it means long term. When I wrote the Vultures to Vampire books, the owner of the Commodore IP, he provided a lot of information to me for one of the chapters in the book. I think it's chapter 10 in volume 2. They hold the license for Commodore IP. They've had lots of challenges themselves over the years from people trying to license or trademarks for Commodore, and people have done. So there are competing trademarks, although the ultimate licensee for Commodore officially is Commodore BV in the Netherlands. Who knows what will happen, and I'm sure it's not finished. As Amiga IP is owned totally separately. Whether they want to do something together in the future is up to them. So I can't really comment on that. One at the back?
Speaking of Amiga OS, do you know what the current state is of what's going on with Hyperion?
Okay. I'm a very small shareholder in Hyperion, tiny. It's work in progress. There's been a management change, ownership change, and the new director, Timothy de Groot, has been working on cleaning up the accounts for the last 3 years. That's all been done now. Their intention is to continue to operate. That's their decision. Update 3 has been approved and should be coming out. I don't have any date on that because it's not my decision. I'm not involved. But they hope to keep a clean company going forward. I don't know if that answers the question or not.
First, Mr. Dickinson.
Hey, excuse me.
Oh, I got a big mouth. All right. First, Mr. Dickinson, everybody who loves the machine does owe you a debt of gratitude for your tireless efforts. Okay, so thank you. Second, in the grand tradition of Amiga shows of yesteryear, are you having a show special price on your products?
For you, yes. Any more? It's always interesting. I mean, this is the first show I've been to where it's not been an Amiga show specific. And I go to shows now in Germany where there's 1,000 people turn up because Amiga was big in Europe. And it's kind of ironic that the birthplace of Amiga, California, right? That the States does not have a bigger Amiga presence. It's really weird. But I guess in the States it was mainly the big box machines, whereas in Europe, probably less money at the time, and it was used more for gaming. All the games that came out on an Amiga first, mainly, because it was ideal for gaming. The thing is, the developers will tell you they were making a games machine, but I guess the real design behind it was actually to make a really powerful computer. So anyway, thank you for turning up. At 5 minutes before the talk started, the place was empty, and I thought, well, that's really good. I'm that bad, but I'm pleased that people turned up, and I'm really pleased that the developers came and heard the crazy things we're doing these days. Thank you.